Charlize Theron and her small army of immortal warriors are back for the Old Guard 2 on Netflix. You can expect more sword fights and close-quarter battles, plus a few new cast members. But does the movie work? Andy and her team of immortal warriors return to protect humanity from a formidable new enemy who threatens their existence. We get all the team back for this sequel, and then adding to the cast are Veronica Ngo, Uma Thurman, and Henry Golding. Now, Charlize Theron is still leading the team, but she has to be way more careful thanks to losing her immortality in the first movie. And the story picks up pretty much where the last left off, with the majority of the guards sticking together and then Booker in exile for the next century due to his betrayal. While the first film was directed by Gina Prince-Bythewood, who has directed other action dramas that are led by powerful women, this go-round the movie's directed by Victoria Mahoney, who has almost exclusively directed episodes of TV series. And that's not a knock, but it does speak to some of the inexperience in putting together a larger vision with a story that feels full and complete. Now, from a plot perspective, this is very similar to so many other action films. We have a scorned partner or former ally who is now seeking revenge for the injustices they think they endured. And then adding to that is the arc that has a spurned character who is hell-bent on taking away everyone else's toys because they don't have theirs anymore. Now, the progression, it is pretty choppy, opening with a fun but also silly action sequence that has just about nothing to do with the rest of the movie. We follow the team to a few locations, each with beautiful scenery, but then each of these small chunks of the story, it doesn't gel well, and they create then the sensation of jumping around aimlessly. The character development that should enhance the plot, especially with Uma Thurman, it's non-existent, using her as a visual gimmick to sneak through the background like some creepy voyeur. Now, I think it was more than halfway through the movie before we even hear her speak more than a couple of words. And her supposed mysterious inclusion, it didn't translate to intrigue or suspense. She was just an unknown who was intended to be sinister. And since I'm already talking about Uma, there is this point when she whips out a katana. And at that point, while I do appreciate the nod, I was also looking around for the pussy wagon that she could use for her getaway. I mean, kudos to her for still not losing her skill with a blade, because there is a fight where she gets to use it and show how crafty she still is. The addition of Henry Golding is nice as another new face within the story, and I do appreciate the information that his character brings to the overall plot, and he also then gets to use his snake eyes training in some battles. But with that said, he becomes just another face in the crowd as the story doesn't fully know what to do with him. And returning from her relatively short screen time in the first movie is Veronica Ngo as Quinn. She was the one who was with Theron's Andy for centuries, before being trapped in a coffin at the bottom of the ocean. Now, as we saw at the end of number 1, Quinn was rescued and is now seeking Andy, but not for a happy reunion. This plotline is so tired, and it's overused in stories. I mean, no knock to the actress, because she is fine as she conveys contempt, ire, loss, sadness, even love. But the writing creates her entire arc to just be blah, nothing out of the ordinary, unique, or even compelling. And unfortunately, because this is a major portion of the overarching story, the film as a whole is affected negatively because it's so familiar and underwhelming. Now, the standout for me was Matthias Schoenaerts as Booker. He's coming from a difficult place of having betrayed his friends, and this film does allow for a redemption arc. Now, the progression, it's very predictable, but there's a moment he and Theron share, and it is just emotionally raw, thanks to the way they both emote through the scene. Might bring a tear to your eye. Now, from an action standpoint, this appears to have a lot of excitement filled with brutal, bone-snapping violence and gnarly stabby action. And there are a bunch of frenetic sequences that convey threat, movement, peril. I wish, though, that we'd been able to see more of the actual fighting. There are a lot of quick cuts that jump us around the battles rather than allow us to witness the finesse and skill that these guards possess just from multiple lifetimes of battles. And I'm not saying there are zero scenes that show us the choreography in a clean and fluid manner, because there are some, but I believe it's less than a handful. The vast majority are just blurred and only provide the illusion of immersive action. Even the effects are lackluster. The blood spatter that comes from bullet wounds or sword pierces looks very fake. I mean, it wasn't wholly convincing in the first movie either, but here, it's even less believable. There was one moment, though, towards the beginning of the film where the visuals we get, although very fake-looking, are still nasty and a little shocking, so it was easier in this moment to overlook the graphical shortcomings. Now, probably the largest sin the film commits is that it doesn't conclude with a resolution to the story that's presented. We're left literally in the middle of the arc. and as of this recording, there is no news of a part 3. So while the first film left room for a sequel, the larger story reached a satisfying end. When this ended, I looked to see how much time was left because I was certain there was no way the movie was over and leaving us at a place where both the narrative and satisfaction are unfulfilled. I mean, what this boils down to is a wasted hour and 45 minutes of life that could be spent watching something engaging. Overall, The Old Guard 2 is a disappointing follow-up to an entertaining action thriller. The story is fatigued and weak, relying on a stale plot progression, inadequately captured battles, and poor CGI. While the cast continues to deliver as much charisma as they can, the end result is a lifeless and stoic group of players whose emotional investment has been stripped away by their centuries of life. And to leave the audience hanging with only half a completed storyline is not only frustrating, it's a massive waste of time. I was really looking forward to this given how much fun the first film was, but choppy action and uninspired storytelling make this one to avoid. There's no sex nudity, bunch of profanity, and a lot of violence. I give The Old Guard 2 1.5 out of 5 couches. So are there any movies based on immortality that you love to watch? Now for me, despite the cheese, I still love Highlander. But let me know yours in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.